Yeah, let's be honest with ourselves. These DEI initiatives are getting a little bit crazy.
More big pass. Here we go. Round off, back handspring into the triple front.
Massive height.
And she opens.
The floor just...
As of course, this is paid for by your tax dollars, and you're going to love and enjoy it. Or else you're a bigot, as right now we are facing a massive national security state issue that I think is critically important to talk about. And that, of course, is the major population collapse that we're seeing right now in Europe, in America, and in places like Japan, where the collapse has already happened, and the replacement population isn't really that nice to tourists for some strange reason, as Trump's national security strategy now is prioritizing the demographic changes in Europe. Yeah, lots to talk about, especially with what is going on right now with serial predators out there that are being rewarded with slaps on the wrist and light sentences, while, of course, people who dare not believe in the woke ideology are being sentenced to life in prison because you refused to echo your woke DEI establishment talking points. What in the world's going on here? As even in the United States, people are being exonerated of horrible crimes because maybe a word was used to offend them. Yep, you heard that correctly. All of this as the extermination of one certain ethnic group is continuing and is being propelled and is being celebrated. Could be one reason why Elon Musk has been viciously attacked, as DEI initiatives seem to be making population replacement that much more worst, as the white population now is on the verge of extinction. And it's a real conversation that deserves real truths. If you appreciate these type of conversations that are a little difficult to have, subscribe, click the notification button, as of course we're taking a lot of risks just talking about these particular issues, and because we are, we appreciate your viewership. We appreciate you guys tuning in here, as we have Visgard24 reporting that European civilization could disappear within the next 20 years if the continent fails to overcome its political divisions and reform its migration and demographic policies. As currently, in many Western European countries, the current population there is taxed, regulated, up the wazoo, like over 50%. More than half the year they're working for the government. The government takes that money and says, now we're going to allow other people to not work and have, of course, money, housing, food, all paid for by the people who are working. As the people who are working are like, why should I even work? Why should I even try? As they are being replaced because they now can't afford families because they're being taxed and regulated too much, as they're paying for the people that are literally being brought in from the Middle East and Africa to replace them. And that is what is really happening here, along with a lot of propaganda, a lot of psyops and initiatives that are being implemented out there to conceive and to make people believe that having children is really bad for the environment, as they literally finance programs to allow other people to have as many children as possible. This is a multi-pronged political, social, cultural issue that has been, in my opinion, a direct form of fifth generational warfare and fourth generational warfare that has been implemented and is being utilized in very drastic measures, as now even Trump's national security strategy prioritizing, quote, making Europe demographically European again. Now, why does this matter? It matters for a number of reasons, right? Not just when it comes to overall IQ, but when it comes to the overall kind of economy, when it comes to the future of these countries, when it comes to a lot of, and there's multiple assessments to make here. This as countries like France and England, who possess nuclear weapons, are becoming more and more Islamic countries, more and more Islamic leaders are taking helms of power, and this is something that probably Israel's looking at. Let's be honest with ourselves. They're not happy with Pakistan. Pakistan has a nuke. They're not happy with that because they're a Muslim country. They're ideologically opposed to, of course, Israel and the United States and the West. And Israel has been making a lot of vague threats and assessments, but they can't really do much because now they have the nuke. France and Europe, France and England becoming Muslim majority countries, which they are set to be will change the political landscape and leadership where now Muslim countries will control and will be France and the United Kingdom and have nukes. And therefore that changes the geopolitical situation very dramatically under Islamic type of leadership. And this is why I think Trump's national security strategy, because, there are some people who are just racist and hate other people. We're not those people. But we do need to have this conversation in an open, honest, and earnest way. If we don't do that, we're failing ourselves and not being genuine. A lot of people are afraid to even talk about this. They're like, oh, I don't want to sound like one of those Bengals. Oh, stop being a whiny little beta, all right? Man up. Look at the facts. Look at the data. Look at the evidence in front of your own eyes and ears and have a real civil conversation about it. Because unless we do, this is going to lead to tremendous problems, not just for Israel. Vast majority of people, as of course when populations become minorities when they were previously majority, look what happens historically, right? Look what happens historically when those situations happen, and it's not pretty, it's not nice, all right? And you think you're going to be treated fairly when you become more and more of a minority in a country? History dictates very different tales about that. As people are responding to this by saying, holy cow, I can't believe Trump did this, as he's questioning Europe's future as, quote, reliable allies. And we specifically did see multiple people, including J.D. Vance, go to Europe during the Frankfurt conference and say, hey, guys, stop arresting your political opponents. You guys are not a democracy. You guys are arresting anyone on the right wing. You guys should allow free speech. And what did Europe respond with? We're going to arrest more people. And then they brought in American journalists and it was like, look, we're confiscating these people's laptops. We're confiscating these people's cell phones. As they talk about how their economic decline is eclipsed only by the real, quote, and stark prospects of civilization erasure. It presents trends continue. The continent will become unrecognizable in 20 years. That is absolutely true. Now, some European countries are doing a lot of extraordinary things in order to address that. It's kind of, sort of, maybe working, but not really. We'll get into what's happening here, what happened in Rotterdam, what some of these horrible gangs. Before we do, just really quickly, and getting into more of this type of deep down the rabbit hole conversation, which I think is important to talk about, we just wanted to tell you about wearechange.shop. The world is becoming more stressful, more wild, more crazy, and that's why one of the things that has helped me is magnesium glycinate. It is something that I take with my last meal of my day, combined with vitamin D. I mean, you get exceptional gains in all aspects of life. I just saw this from @OutdoorDoctrine, and they posted how magnesium is key to better blood flow. Magnesium is the intercellular antagonist to calcium glutamate 2 excitatory signals that can drive excess constriction of the vascular system. As they also report how magnesium can also partly reduce coagulating blood thickening by reducing inflammation. Again, magnesium, lots of people are deficient in it, very hard to test for. Lots of our foods, lots of our vegetables used to have a lot of it. Now they have less and less of it. That's why I think supplementation is key. And that's why I started up wearechange.shop. I'm taking these supplements myself. I take this one with the last meal of my day, and I feel awesome, and I feel incredible. And I want that for you. wearechange.shop. Support us. They make great stocking stuffers, great sale items that are really awesome and important for you to have, especially if you want to be happy, healthy, and reproduce. I know I'm planning on doing that, and I want to make sure that I'm in tip-top shape. I'm not doing alcohol. I'm making sure that I'm becoming disciplined, and I wish that for you too. Now, Elon Musk says an immediate increase in the birth rates is needed. Absolutely. As right now, the system is predatory against current native populations as they're replacing them with other populations. And now there's these neoliberal globalists that are saying, well, yeah, the population's that much lower. We need to make sure the economy does better, so we got to import more people. But they don't understand those people that they import are predominantly from countries that burden their social safety nets that no longer are available there for their local population, that now is extorted and exploited to pay for these people replacing them. That, of course, perpetuates this kind of economic downfall, as neoliberal economists are saying, we need more immigration, more money, more people, more economy. And I'm like, that's not how it works, you idiots. Well, what are you guys doing here? As birth rates are plummeting, population collapse is one of the greatest threats to civilization. And when you look at what's happening right now in France, EU, Germany, Finland, Italy, Spain, it is disgusting. Now, even the percentage of the population of the three largest Swedish cities, Stockholm, Gothenburg, very close to being a white minority country. That matters, as, of course, abuses in those countries against local populations also have gone up dramatically. As, of course, we have this story of a serial predator out there who hurt and abused women and children for several days, right? Several days. And he's being let off with no prison time for 2 horrible attacks on children using weapons. His name, Abin Mandahat Bali Muhammad. And he's free because there was a plea deal given to him by a progressive county, right? As people are saying, this is exactly what is happening in places like the United Kingdom. This is other footage that Elon Musk posted saying incredible, unjust. And this is in the Netherlands, where a judge handed a migrant who took the life of a little girl. You know what sentence he got? 120 hours community service as punishment. The father literally threw a chair. And he's probably going to be sentenced, because he's white, to a harsher jail sentence than the person who took his daughter's life. There's also this horrible story of what happened in Rotterdam, where migrant gangs, their crimes were deliberately downplayed and edited out of court proceedings so people wouldn't see the severity of their crimes, so there wouldn't be any outrage towards a lower prison term that was given to them, as of course they literally tortured children, 12, 14. And the judge just decided, oh yeah, it's just a leisurely punishment, nothing to see here. Why are they doing this? Well, it's because of woke, liberal, absolute nonsense. Of course, an Irish teacher was jailed because he didn't bow down to leftist liberal ideology, which a lot of people believe is medically harmful to small children. As of course, he did show up to the school where he was fired from every single day, and then he did it as an act of defiance, as an act of civil disobedience. And then, of course, he was arrested, and we're getting reports of him being sentenced for life in jail. Again, take to life, torture young native children as migrants from Africa and the Middle East do that? Yeah, don't worry about that. White guy, you don't believe in woke ideology? Jail. And then we have nincompoops like Don Lemon telling you, those white people, though, they're so evil.
Men who look like you, men who vote like you, and men who sound like you. White men, something is broken. Something is cracked deep inside when so many of you believe the answer to fear, to loss, to change is violence.
Yeah, looking at the crime statistics, that's not really true. As in this country, the response here. In this country, it's an uncomfortable truth here, but black women commit more crimes than white men. How's that possible? This as jails in the United States are also overwhelmingly classifying black, Hispanic, and Middle Eastern men as white men. So the crime statistics already are pretty shocking when you look at them. They're a lot more shocking when you understand, a lot of the data is just skewed, right? In Portland, there was a person who got stabbed by a black person. He blurted out a bad word. A jury found out about that, and a jury found him innocent, right? 43-year-old was charged with second-degree assault for stabbing a man in Portland. However, he was found not guilty of the crime after the jury learned the victim used a word in the aftermath of the altercation. Yeah. That's the type of self-hating type of propaganda nonsense out there that does deserve to be addressed and talked about. And then, of course, we have this larger extermination event happening right now to white male populations inside of Ukraine. Something that is being prolonged by the deep state, something that is being exacerbated, something that is just absolutely eviscerating and destroying local populations. As right now, local populations, specifically white populations, are facing a major tax burden as the government is taking it and then financing their replacement and other people from having all the welfare, all the children, all the free stuff, all the benefits, and then the white people can't afford to have children. And it's these type of uncomfortable truths that generally do happen. Not always. There's always exceptions to the rules, and it's always important to talk about these type of exceptions and understand them. But they're rules for a reason, all right? There's a reason why these type of statistics and data are more prevalent. Now, again, you can't just argue, oh, but there's an exception here. It does, because overwhelmingly, that's the rule. And that's what usually happens here. And that's probably why the European Commission just majorly fined Elon Musk, as they even offered him a secret deal to quietly censor speech without telling anyone, and then he wouldn't be fined. And of course, they're fining him and targeting him because he's allowing these type of conversations, specifically about the migration, specifically about the groomings, because the European Union is financing and funding a lot of this. And if people find out, oh, we're funding our replacement, and these people are getting away with all these horrible crimes, no, I don't want to do this. They'll, of course, push back against it. And the European Union doesn't want that. They want the destruction. They want the centralization. They want the chaos. They want the racial division. And, of course, nothing has promoted more racial division than, of course, a lot of this DEI nonsense. As Elon Musk says, the point of fighting racism and sexism was not to get rid of racism and get rid of sexism. It's not to change it to another form, as now we have a perfect representation of medical school acceptance rates here that's highlighting people with lower GPAs, lower academic accolades, being accepted. Why? Because of the color of their skin color. While other people, specifically whites and Asians, being discriminated against when they are more capable, far more ready for the very serious tasks at hand here. As this type of discrimination happens in universities still, and the Trump administration is like, oh, well, those other students from that one country in the Middle East, they're the more priority. It's pretty clear. But there still is a lot of extreme racism against whites and Asians. No one says anything about it. And even the Trump administration is being very nonchalant, non-caring about this. As right now, there are so many conversations about people being extremely smart, extremely capable, and they're being denied opportunities to better themselves, to educate themselves, to be propelled in society. Why? Because they're white. And people are talking about how there's millions of stories like this, specifically white males, that now the younger white males earn less than younger white women. Younger white women aren't as charitable, usually, generally, especially when it comes to having a priority to start families. Young males want to have families. Young women do not, statistically. Now, this is another kind of crazy story here, talking about how Jeremy Kauffman posted, as a white mom, your children will be substantially and systematically discriminated against by medical school simply for being white. This is not something that should be ignored just because it's an uncomfortable subject. Yeah. I mean, look at these acceptance rates. I mean, how do you allow this? How do you have so much discrimination and racism because of someone being the way that they're born? Now you add on top of that a lot of the kind of silly propaganda that women are inundated with, saying, no, having children is selfish, get your career, serve your corporate overlords, girl boss. Watch the Girl Boss movie. Watch how this girl beats and defeats all these men. You're the girl. Yeah, you're so powerful. You're the best. You could settle down and be married and have kids at 36. Stefan Molyneux responded, yeah, I could be 59 with no savings, but I could win the lottery. That's the same type of thing. As, of course, 90% of women's eggs are gone by the age of 30, an uncomfortable truth that a lot of women don't want to talk about, don't want to deal with, as populations are down dramatically, as white people are on the verge of extinction. You ask anybody who's not privy or paying attention to this, what's the population of white people? Well, like 70%, 50%, 60%. It's 7 to 8%. It used to be 35% 100 years ago. Now it's just 7 to 8% as white people are a minority in the world, as countries like Africa are repopulating continents like Africa are repopulating dramatically. Vast majority of countries in Africa. Countries in Europe, vast majority of the population going down. U.S. white population has fallen by 2.1 million since 2020, while other races' population has grown significantly. And guess what? Where is all this leading to? This is leading towards centralization of power. This is all about destroying and subjugating humanity. And the people who are most willing to, of course, push back against this are people with families, people with high IQs, people who have the economic means and ways to protect themselves and defend themselves. And that's why they are priority number one for the predatory globalist class that is running an extinction campaign on the most successful, the most happiest, the most wonderful people on earth, as of course they want you fat, sick, stupid, and dead. And they're going to force that. And they're going to create a society and a world like that is going to be that much reductive, that much more horrible, especially if enough people don't even dare to have this conversation. I think this conversation is worth having. If you agree, share this video. Thank you so much for supporting me on wearechange.shop. We appreciate all of your incredible support of us. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. I'm super proud of my supplements. I'm super proud of my products. A lot of people sell a lot of bad stuff, and I don't want to add to the degeneracy. I don't want to add to people losing their money and being absolutely wasted away. I want you to be happier. I want you to be healthier. That's why I created wearechange.shop. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys supporting me. That's why I always try to end every single broadcast by saying, love you guys. Stay tuned for more. All here exclusively on youtube.com/wearechange.